Let's bring in Tom Murphy to talk about Georgia, Arkansas, and all things Razorbacks. Tom, what's your gut tell you about the quarterback situation in Athens? Are we going to see DeJuan Mathis roll out there the first drive? Are you thinking JT Daniels is going to be at the starting quarterback position against Arkansas?
Guys, sure want to talk about the Big Ten news and the media surrounding it from yesterday, but my gut tells me that we're going to see both of those quarterbacks in this game, and, I mean, you'd only be doing yourself a disservice if you just tried to roll with one of them, in my opinion. From the things I've heard, DeJuan Mathis has looked fine. I mean, he's a tall kid. He's a dual threat. He's recovered from the cyst that he had on his brain last year, which is very dangerous. And then, JT Daniels, they expect him to get cleared and get ready to play. I think he's somewhat mobile, but he's coming off of a knee, so I'd be surprised if you didn't see a little bit of both these guys.
You asked and you shall receive. Big Ten conversation. Huge news as the Big Ten Conference announced that it will play college football starting the weekend of the 23rd and 24th. A lot of people excited, but Tom, not everyone's excited. I saw a couple people, and this is the headline that frankly just kind of ticked me off. This was from Christine Brennan of USA Today, calling the darkest day in the Big Ten history. And my thoughts to that is like, hey, Larry Nassar, Jerry Sandusky, hold my beer. Like, how can you write a headline like that the Big Ten college football coming back is the darkest day in the history of the conference? I mean, you're a journalist, man. How can you write something like that?
Well, I just thought that sentiment was completely misguided. And there were people in the media who were saddened yesterday, and it seems to me the curtain has been pulled, and it's a political deal. And Tim Brando, I just happened to see this before I got on the air with you guys. That Tim Brando, I'm not sure when he tweeted it, but I've enjoyed reading Christine Brennan's work over the years, but this is nothing short of liberal propaganda. And there were people who did not want the Big Ten to play, all for political reasons. And there's a lot of us who just wanted football for our livelihoods. I mean, what we're uncertain about is the long-term health effects and all that, but it just seems like there's been so few hospitalizations with these guys that, that you just kind of push forward. I mean, that's what we do as Americans, and I don't understand just the whole shutdown mentality that some people have had. And Christine Brennan basically exposed herself yesterday as being a propagandist. I mean, to call it the darkest day in Big Ten history is just so short-sighted and wrong. And you're right, the Sandusky affairs and all the Nassars, and there's been multiple
Urban Meyer and Zach Smith, an Ohio State team. I mean, I was reading some of the stuff yesterday that came out. It was just embarrassing and like you said, Tom, I've enjoyed her work over the years. She's worked at USA Today Sports, and I've enjoyed her articles. But like I'm reading that yesterday, and it's like, how in one sentence can you undo all the great work you did over the years? And I mean, you understand this as a guy that's written college football. Sometimes your worst mistake stands out about all the great things you did.
Well, man, I don't know to judge her along those lines, but that was just out of wrong head. I mean, a lot of people, it was, hey, this is a great day. They're going to play football. And she kind of coded it a little bit in how, there's still, health issues involved. But it was more or less, this is a win for Donald Trump. And I don't think she liked that. Pat Forty, on the other hand, my old buddy, invoked religion in his piece. And I don't know if you guys saw it or not, but it was dripping with sarcasm. And to me, it's an insight into the psychology he brings to the equation, and that by invoking all this religion, it's almost like a slap to the Deep South. It's, traditionally a more, religious area of the country. And so he brings in all these religious metaphors, and Moses comes down from the mountain after 40 days, and thou shalt play football. And it really slapped me the wrong way that he's mad that the football is going to be played in the Midwest, and also brought up the politics and what he called pandering to voters. And it just made me ill to read all that. And, a lot of people in this country, that we just want to live our lives as most normal as we can, and having football in the fall, and the medical advice of their doctors seemed to say that there was a less chance of long-term health issues from this. So just yesterday was a weird day in college sports journalism.
Yeah, I just don't understand from a business standpoint. I mean, you have your opinions, I've got mine, Ty's got his, but I try to leave those at home because I want people on both sides of the aisle listening to the program. You want people on both sides of the aisle reading your columns. And when you come out so strong one way or the other in a section of the media that is already just a fraction of the, we're not entertainment, we're not Hollywood, we're not the news, we're sports. Why would you want to turn off half your audience? I don't understand from the business standpoint why some of these writers make the decisions they're making that are going to alienate potentially half of the people that would read their columns.
Well, that's a good point. And, I can't speak for they're opinion writers. And so Christine Brennan gets to voice her opinion.
Sure.
And she gets to call yesterday the darkest day in Big Ten history when they reinstated football.
And I get to choose not to read anymore, too. So
what's that?
I get to choose not to read anymore, too.
Oh, yeah. And the USA Today has basically made its political philosophy, it's out there. We understand that. And I don't know what SI.com's ownership and what its philosophy is, but these sports journalists have really entered themselves into the realm of politics and kind of laid it out there for us.
All right, so let's talk about the actual football that the Big Ten is proposing to play and planning to play come late October, beginning the 23rd and the 24th. They're trying to get 9 games in, including teams that did make the championship game, as I understand it, playing on championship weekend. That's about revenue. Is this enough of a season, Tom, in comparison to the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC to hold up to be included in the college football playoff?
Well, the argument will be if they're able to get in a chunk of that season, a good chunk of it, that if you base – and this is basically about Ohio State, right?
Sure.
If the merits of what they've done and who they've defeated and all that leads to their inclusion, then I'm not going to argue against that. However, they set themselves up some really tough standards in terms of percentage of positive tests or guys in quarantine, and that it's going to make it really hard if you drill down into that. It's going to be hard to get all those games in. I do love the idea of that championship weekend matching up all the rest of the conference. That's a brilliant idea, and whether it's for revenue or not, I like the idea of it. And something that might come out of this is there might be a loosening up of the structure of how teams schedule games and things like that. Now, there's a lot of contracts to be revisited when this thing is all said and done. Arkansas, Notre Dame, the Nevada game, and all that kind of stuff. But when you go through wild, unprecedented times, then wild, unprecedented things happen, and that's what's going to happen with the Big Ten. And it looks like the Pac-12 is talking about trying to come back in the Mountain West too. This has really gotten weird.
You mentioned the standards: 21-day suspension for the program with a positive test, and then a 5% positivity rate with the teams before that's the threshold of shutting down. Tom, you're talking about, depending on your roster number, 5 or 6 players, and a player being out for 21 days, missing 3, potentially 4 games, depending on when it falls with your schedule and your calendar. Those are some tough, rigorous standards that probably don't fall in line with any other league, certainly, and maybe not in line with the science.
Yeah, I don't know about the science part of it, but they do not fall in line with the other football playing conferences right now, and it's tough. If you miss 3 games out of that schedule, you're almost at the halfway point of the season. They're trying to salvage what they can from it, and I don't know what forces were at work that put all this together, the science, the doctors, and all that, but they've set themselves up a tough standard, and it's hard to imagine that all those teams are going to get in their 8 games. And that's why, let's just say Ohio State plays 6 games or 7 games. Is that enough? The College Football Playoff Selection Committee this year is going to really have its hands full comparing something like that, like say a 7-1 Big Ten team against an undefeated Appalachian State or, Louisiana Lafayette with one loss. I mean, what do you do? So it's going to be a real fun season. A lot of great arguments will ensue. But I tell you, I much prefer the arguments about who deserves to be included in a playoff than I do the vitriol that has come about due to the decision to play football.
Tom Murphy with us of the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Tom, we've talked Big Ten, Pac-12 kind of on the back burner, but it looks like some steam is getting picked up there. What's your gut tell you if the Pac-12 ultimately sides with the rest of the Power 5 and plays college football in 2020?
Man, there's some states out there. I mean, my sister just drove out to L.A. with, you got the fires going on. You've got some cities, I think, that are still almost shut down, and the unrest out there, like in Portland and stuff, I don't even know if it's calmed down. It's just been going on for so long. But there's a lot more challenges to try to play football out there, but it looks like they've started the dialogue, and to me, that's a positive step. And I don't want any of these kids to have any kind of health concerns moving forward from this. So they've got a tough decision to make. And for them to get on track to play in October, like the Big 12, like the Big 10 is planning, seems like it's a faster track than I can envision, but I don't know all the stuff that's going on the ground out there.
Tom, before we let you go, big game this weekend as the Fighting Jerry Joneses take on your Atlanta Falcons. Now, we brought it up earlier that Jerry wasn't too out of the realm, like, we lost game one, we'll see what happens game two. What are your thoughts on the Dallas Cowboys taking on the Atlanta Falcons this weekend?
Well, you got to give the Cowboys credit. They had the lead for a lot of the game. They didn't generate a lot of offense in the second half, but to me, a narrow loss out there in L.A. to the Rams, who are still a quality team, is a little better representative than the way I think we lost the ball on downs probably 3 times in that game. There were turnovers. Just looked really sloppy. We looked like one of those teams that didn't prepare well during COVID and rolled out a bad egg on the first game against the Seahawks. But a lot of people do believe the Seahawks are going to be one of the best teams in football. In fact, I think they're favored over the Patriots this week, and I read something yesterday that's going to be the first time in maybe 60-something regular season games that the Patriots won't be favored.
Wow.
So that tells you a little something about the Seahawks. I think we'll get better, but I'm concerned about the Falcons in a tough division, and that's just not having enough firepower. So I think the Cowboys have to be favored.
Well, Tom, we appreciate it always, man. Best of luck to your Atlanta Falcons this weekend, and we will talk about what happened on that game as well as other Razorback stuff as we are 9 days out from Arkansas football. Appreciate it as always, Tom. Have a good weekend.
You bet, guys. We'll talk more Razorbacks next Tuesday, but I had to say a few things about the national scale today. See y'all.
Hey, good stuff as always, Tom.